My phone buzzed at 6 in the morning. For a second, my body thought I'd overslept for work. Old habits don't retire cleanly. Then I remembered I was a widower in Charleston, retired, with a suitcase by the closet and a cruise I'd paid for, like money could stitch a family back together. Before I tell you what I found in that house 3 hours later, I want to ask you something. Has your own family ever tried to make you disappear quietly? Type yes below if that's ever happened to you. I want to see how many of us there are. And if you want to see exactly how this ends, stay with me and hit subscribe because it's worth every minute. The kitchen was dim. A photo of my wife Claire sat by the window, her smile frozen in sunlight. 3 years gone, and I still measured my mornings by the shape of the silence she left behind. The cruise was supposed to be a reset, Alaska, cold air, the kind of trip you brag about at church. Truth was, I missed my son. Ethan was 36, married, 2 kids, and somehow farther from me than he'd ever been living under my roof. I picked up my phone expecting a message about pickup time. Instead, I read a block of text that turned my stomach cold. Plans changed. Dad can't join the cruise. Vanessa wants only family. We'll send pictures. Only family. 2 words that turned my house into a waiting room. I didn't respond right away. I used to do compliance work for a regional bank. One thing that taught me is panic makes you sloppy. I took a screenshot and emailed it to myself. A habit I never broke. The moment stopped being just a wound. It became a record. I called Ethan. On the 4th ring, Vanessa answered instead. "Walter," she said, sharp, impatient. I asked for my son. She told me he was packing, that this trip was about their family unit, that her parents were coming as the support they needed, and that I should respect their boundary. Boundary. The word landed like a slap wrapped in a self-help book. I reminded her I'd paid for the cruise, the flights, the upgrades. She laughed. "Money isn't the point. You always make money the point." Then she said I shouldn't come to the house. They had to meet with the onboard coordinator and handle paperwork before they sailed. Paperwork. Those words didn't belong to a family vacation. I hung up and sat with the silence. My first instinct was to drive over and force my son to look me in the eye. My second instinct was to lash out. But cruelty is sloppy. I walked to my study instead and pulled a slim folder from my safe trust documents, beneficiary forms, the things Ethan never asked about. Inside was a plain envelope in Claire's handwriting, written the month before she died. I'd promised myself I wouldn't open it unless I truly needed to. I put it back. Not yet. I opened my laptop and did what I always do when something doesn't feel right. I followed the money. A transfer to a payment handle ending with Pike, Vanessa's maiden name. A withdrawal labeled consultation fee to a law firm I didn't recognize. Small leaks, bad timing, quiet confidence. Claire used to say, "Trust is beautiful right up until it becomes an excuse." She'd watched her own brother turn charm into endless loans, watched her mother forgive him until forgiveness became surrender. She never said my son would do that. She would have hated the thought, but she would have hated me being naive even more. I packed a small bag. Keys, wallet, the folder, Claire's photo, tucked in an inside pocket. On a legal pad, I wrote 2 words, "Only family," and underlined them once. If that was the rule they wanted, I'd honor it completely, in a way they hadn't imagined. Their neighborhood looked peaceful from the curb, trimmed lawns, drawn curtains, the kind of place that looks stable from outside. I rang the bell. Vanessa opened the door just wide enough to block it, phone already in her hand, like she was recording evidence. Behind her in the foyer sat travel bags, not just enough for a family of 4, but garment bags, designer totes, a folded stroller, like they were preparing for a move, not a vacation. "Where's Ethan?" I asked. She wouldn't move. Behind her, I heard a woman's laugh, loud and practiced. "My parents are here," she said. "They're helping. We don't need this." I stepped past her anyway. The house hit me in the chest, not the walls, the memories. Claire and I had picked those countertops together. Now it felt like a stage set arranged for someone else's comfort. Ethan appeared, sweating through his polo shirt, eyes darting. "Why are you here?" "Because I'm your father," I said. "And because you texted me like I was a plumber you wanted to reschedule." I walked past him into the living room, and the sound died the way a radio does when you switch it off. 4 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Vanessa's mother stood by the island in linen and sunglasses, smiling wide and cold. Her stepfather sat with a resentful stare. Her younger brother had his feet up on my coffee table, chewing gum, watching me like entertainment. Suitcases everywhere, tagged with a name that wasn't ours. This wasn't a family trying to reconnect. This was an invasion. "Tell me what," I said, turning slowly, "that I'm not invited on the cruise I paid for, or that I've been replaced by your wife's family?" "Nobody replaced you," Vanessa snapped. Her mother chimed in sweetly about keeping the peace. Her stepfather said Ethan needed to be head of his household, and couldn't do that with me hovering. Her brother laughed. "Sometimes you gotta let the young people have their space, man." I looked at his shoes on my table. I looked at the suitcase tags, 3 of them, all bearing her family's name. My eyes slid to the console table near the door, where a thick FedEx envelope sat half-covered by boarding passes. A corner of paper stuck out. 2 words, visible without even trying. Appraisal appointment. My chest went tight. Not panic, recognition. People don't order an appraisal for fun. They do it when they're about to borrow against something or shift ownership of it. I didn't touch it. Not yet. I needed to hear the lie first. "Ethan," I said, "why'd you send that text?" He gave me a speech that sounded rehearsed. Stress. Arguing. Needing space to reconnect. Only family meant her family, apparently, not his own father. "You didn't tell me weeks ago," I said. "You told me the morning of. By text, like canceling a dentist appointment. Why?" His face went red. "Because you would have made it a big thing. You would have ruined it." Ruined it. The same word Vanessa used. Same rhythm. Like they were reading from a script. Her mother stepped in, voice turning sharper and sweeter at once. "Walter, you're older. You tire easily. You get confused. It's better for everyone if you stay home and rest. Better for everyone. Better for their plans. Better for whatever that envelope had to do with." "I'm not confused," I said quietly. "I handled bank audits and fraud investigations for 30 years. I can handle a cruise." Nobody in that room apologized. Vanessa told me I wasn't entitled to a vacation just because I paid for it. A gift is a gift. I looked at her a long moment. "I paid for that cruise. You're taking it. You're taking my place. That's what this is." I left without confronting the envelope. "Have a safe trip," I said. "I hope only family is everything you think it will be." Vanessa didn't say goodbye. She said, "Finally. Good," and turned away like I'd already left. I drove 2 blocks, parked under an oak, and watched their driveway through a gap in the houses until I saw the last suitcase disappear into the trunk. Then I made a decision that felt strangely calm. I was going back inside. I used my spare key. Cool air, faint perfume, stale champagne already opened on the counter like they were celebrating my absence. I went straight to the hallway table. The FedEx envelope was still there. Inside, a scheduled property appraisal, a checklist for renovations, attic access, crawl space, list of liens, if any. You don't order that unless you're planning to borrow, refinance, or shift an asset. I set it back exactly as I found it. I moved into Ethan's home office. Papers everywhere, unopened mail, the kind of mess that happens when someone's running from the truth. In the trash can, buried under boarding pass stubs, I found a home equity line of credit disclosure, this house listed as the address, and at the bottom a signature line, Walter Hayes. My name. Written close, but wrong. Too heavy on the downstroke. Not my hand. My fingers went cold, not fear, disgust. Behind it, a notary acknowledgement, half filled, waiting for one more step to spring the trap. I photographed everything. Evidence is only useful if it survives scrutiny. At the bottom of the trash, folded twice, was a yellow sticky note, a bank name, a downtown branch, a safe deposit box number, and a 4-digit code that wasn't mine. I photographed that too. I opened his laptop, closed but unlocked with the right password, our old home address, the one he used to say he hated. Inside, an email thread. Urgent funding confirmation deadline. A hard money lender. Ethan as borrower, Vanessa and her mother copied. The collateral listed, this house. The guarantor named me. One line made my pulse pound. Documents may be executed in Juneau as planned. Any delay beyond 48 hours triggers a penalty and a call-in of the note. A draft guarantee form. My name typed in? A blank field for a signature? A blank field for a notary seal? A checklist requiring proof of authority, not just forging my signature, but building paperwork that made it look like they had the legal right to sign for me. Vanessa's voice came back to me, "You always make money the point." She was right. It always had been. I found a shared drive folder labeled Family Documents. Inside, scans of my driver's license, my limited power of attorney from after Claire died, and a new file, Updated Authority Draft. Those 3 words were all I needed. I closed the laptop exactly as I found it and moved to the kitchen. A clipboard sat under travel snacks, a checklist in Vanessa's handwriting. Hotel check-in, meet coordinator, sign papers, confirm wire. I had one call to make, not the police, not Ethan. An attorney named Bob, who'd helped me structure my retirement after Claire died. I hovered over the call button, then stopped. One more step first. I needed to see what was in that safe deposit box before I called anyone. The bank lobby smelled the same as it always had. I told the woman at reception my name, Walter Hayes, and asked for safe deposit services. Her smile faltered for half a second before it returned. A manager named Daniel came out, careful, polished, and led me to his office. Before we even started, he told me there was a note on my account, placed there by an authorized contact, my son Ethan, suggesting the family had concerns about my well-being and that transactions should be handled cautiously. I kept my voice even. I used to write the internal guidance on elder exploitation flags for banks like this one. Don't talk to me like I wandered in off the street. Remove the note. Show me the access history. He brought in bank security, a woman named Marla. When we finally reached the vault, my personal box held only what I expected. But there was a second box tied to my name that I'd never opened, accessed recently, Marla admitted, with documentation that granted access to your son acting on your behalf. Inside that second box, a newer version of my will than the one I remembered signing. A trust amendment, sections highlighted. A folder labeled Walter Hayes, Medical History. An appraisal from the same firm as the envelope at the house, and a slim black leather folder with a private lender's logo. Personal guarantee agreement, Walter Hayes, blank signature line, behind it a disbursement schedule. Payment 1 at signing to Pike Family Holdings. Not just my son and his wife. Her family's business, a machine set up to use me as fuel. Marla told me something that made my stomach turn. Someone had tried to access this exact box the day before, my son, accompanied by an older woman, likely his mother-in-law. The notary seal was missing, so the attendant had refused them. They'd left angry. They were racing the clock. I called my old attorney Bob and told him everything. He didn't waste time. "This isn't a family disagreement," he said. "This is attempted theft of your identity and your autonomy. We locked down authority today." Within the hour, I sat in his office signing documents: revocation of any existing power of attorney, a new limited directive, a medical proxy naming my old friend Hank instead of Ethan, a signed and notarized statement of capacity dated that day. So if anyone ever tried to claim I was confused, we'd have a clean baseline before their Juno show. While we worked, my phone kept buzzing. "Ethan," voicemails, texts, growing more frantic. "Dad, please pick up. Vanessa is freaking out. Something's wrong with the ship's payment system." Something was wrong, all right. I hadn't touched the cruise payment yet, which meant their own plan was already unraveling on its own. Bob and I went back to my house, the one they thought was theirs. We found more. A digital voice recorder hidden in a kitchen drawer, labeled Juno, Walter, Confirm. A clipboard note: "If Walter shows up, keep him talking, record the call." A draft email to a physician named Adrian Wells. "We need a doctor willing to document decline based on family report. No deep testing. We need speed. We'll have video and audio. Discretion required. We can pay cash." A bribery attempt, in writing. In the bedroom safe behind a ring box, a beneficiary designation for a $2 million life insurance policy submitted 3 weeks earlier. Insured me, beneficiary Vanessa. They weren't just stealing my money, they were building a payoff for my death. In a nightstand notebook, a ledger, amounts, dates, names. Pike Family Holdings, Adrian Wells, court fees, retainer evaluator, Alaska contingency. This wasn't a fight. This was a business plan. I brought everything to Bob, along with my sister Marlene and my old friend Hank, who I'd called in as witnesses. That night, we filed a title notice locking the house from being used as collateral. We transferred my interest into an irrevocable trust, one where Ethan and Vanessa were not beneficiaries, where they could only live there with written permission that could be revoked at any time. We froze the insurance beneficiary change. We reported the forged HELOC documents. We referred the bridge loan attempt to a fraud unit. I posted an occupancy termination notice on the door myself. The next morning, a call came from a smooth-voiced man named Grant, representing Pike Family Holdings, trying to frame the whole thing as just paperwork and a matter of miscommunication. Bob put him on notice for fraud. The man tried one more line before hanging up. "Perhaps you should consider your family's long-term welfare before making threats." A pressure tactic dressed as concern. Then came Pike Family Holdings' emergency court petition, claiming I was being financially exploited by my own attorney and an unstable sister, and that I needed protective oversight. We walked into that courtroom together, me, Bob, Hank, Marlene, against Vanessa's mother, her father Calvin Pike, and their litigator. Calvin told me in the hallway with a smile that men our age shouldn't make drastic decisions and that I didn't want to die alone. The judge did not agree with them. Bob laid out the timeline: the forged signature, the recorder, the bribery email, the insurance change, the frozen bridge loan, the note instructing someone to keep Walter talking. The judge asked Calvin directly if he'd sent a message trying to influence a witness. He hadn't personally, but someone acting on his behalf had. She warned him against contempt. She ordered Vanessa's mother to have no further contact with me. Then she looked at Bob and asked if there was any evidence I lacked capacity. "None," Bob said. "In fact, the evidence suggests the opposite." The petition was denied, with prejudice. Outside, Ethan's voice came through a phone Vanessa's mother was holding, on speaker, still trying to get to me. "Dad, please, fix this." I didn't answer. I just walked down the courthouse steps into daylight that felt almost too bright to be real. The ship sailed on without me, but not without consequences. Every day brought a new update: suite access restricted, onboard spending frozen, staff quietly flagging them as high-risk guests. My sister filmed from her car the day they finally got back to the house and found the locks changed and a notice on the door. Ethan tried his key over and over, like force could convince metal. Vanessa tore the notice down, screaming, and then 2 cars pulled up behind them. Not police, but investigators, folders in hand there about the fraud referral. I watched it all from a small motel 2 hours away, sitting with my wife's old recipe binder in my lap, and for the first time in a long while, I let myself grieve quietly instead of fight. Not because I'd lost, because I'd finally won back the right to feel something other than survival. I didn't feel joy watching them panic. I felt closure, my dignity coming back like blood returning to a numb limb. If you've ever been treated like an ATM by people who swore they loved you, hear me clearly. Love does not require you to be exploited. Loyalty doesn't mean letting someone drain you dry. And family is not a free pass to betray you without consequences. So tell me, if you were in my position, would you have confronted them at the door that morning or done exactly what I did and let the paperwork speak for itself? Comment confront or document below. I'll be reading everyone. If this hit home, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.